What's going on, everybody? I'm Jimbo from Bam, and in today's tutorial I'm gonna show you how to do a paper cutout effect on Procreate. We'll be drawing an ampersand and some cool elements around it, but obviously you can apply this effect in any of your pieces. In this video I'm using an iPad Pro, but you're good to go with any iPad as long as you have the Procreate app. In here I'm gonna be using our latest product, the Ultimate Procreate background set. But don't worry, because we've got you covered. You can find the free sample set in our free treasury available for our community newsletter subscribers. You can find the link in the description below. And if you don't know how to draw an ampersand, don't worry. You can either use a font or get one of the 4 free ampersands we've also included in our free treasury. Bunch of free stuff this time around. Let's get started. Here, I'm doing a little time lapse of me drawing an ampersand, but remember that you can draw whatever character you like the most. By the way, I wanted to ask you if you would like me to teach how to make ampersands. Let me know in the comments. The second step is gonna be to draw some of the elements in the background. Remember to select another color, create a new layer, and start drawing. In this example, I'm gonna be drawing a butterfly first. For the wings, I'm gonna be using one layer, and then for the body, I'm gonna use another layer with another color, and so on. Separating each and every element on different layers will be essential later on. Just imagine that you were cutting actual papers and piling one on top of the other. Oh, by the way, if you're using a small iPad, you don't have to draw as many elements as I am, because you'll probably run out of layers. You can either keep it simpler or create a smaller document with a bunch of layers. Here you will see that I'm already deciding what's going to be on top of what. For example, I'm cutting these leaves short because I know I won't show certain parts, so you can do the same. Small details make the difference, so make sure you keep little parts on different layers. Yep, even those little strawberry seeds. Once you have unique elements, feel free to duplicate them and place them across the canvas. I've grouped all the butterfly elements by swiping right on each layer and tapping on group. Alright, well, seems like we're done with the composition. Now I'm bringing the leaves in the background followed by all the other elements. Keep in mind that at this point it's up to you to decide the order of each and every element, but you can also change that later. Okay, now it's time to get serious here. This illustration will get really interesting when some of the elements are partially behind the ampersand and partially in front. This will start giving a bit of depth. Head to the Layers panel, tap on the ampersand and select Mask. This will allow us to hide some parts of it without erasing anything. Now select the element you want to partially show in front, tap on it on the Layers panel and tap on Select. Head back to the ampersand's mask, pick a 100% black color, select a brush, not an eraser, and paint on top. You'll see that the leaf starts showing, but we're actually not erasing the ampersand, just hiding it. Let me ask you something, do you know the difference in between a clipping mask and a mask? Let me know in the comments below so I can prepare a tutorial in the future. And well, basically here I'm just repeating the same steps all over the artwork. Here's a little tip, if you're running out of layers like I'm doing here, try joining the ones that are not touching with each other. It will give you more room to breathe. Boom! Done! We made it halfway through the video and now our elements are ready to get some textures. Now it's time to decide if you feel good with the colors or not. In my case, I'll switch the ampersand's color with the backgrounds. Okay, what about starting to give the realistic effects into this? Now it's time to play around with some textures until you're satisfied with what you see. Remember that we are using brushes from our set and you can totally follow along with the freebie we've prepared for you. Find the link down below. Here I've selected one of the textures and started spraying it on a new layer on top of everything else. I'm not quite satisfied with the side of the grain, so I'm tapping into the brush and changing its scale inside the grain panel. Oh, by the way, you'll have to forgive me, but at the time I was recording the video, the textures didn't have proper names. Sorry for the mess. Alright, well, just play around, choose a couple textures you like, and leave turned on just one. You'll see why later. Let's now decide where the light is coming from. This is totally up to you, but I've decided that mine will come from the top right. It's shadow time. Zoom into one of the elements and select the shader. Create a new layer on top and set it to clipping mask. I'm going to be using the inverted brushes from our set. You can do it with the free sample we offer you or with a soft airbrush from the Procreate's native airbrushing panel. Now repeat the same process in all of the shapes. Remember to select the objects, create clipping masks on top of them and add some shades with dark tones. You don't have to use 100% black, so make sure to play around with dark colors until you find the one that suits you the best. So here we go again, I'm running out of layers. I'm gonna join the shapes with their clipping masks. It's risky, but there's nothing I can do at this point. Keep creating clipping masks if you're good with layers. If you're not, like me, tap on the layers and then tap on Alpha Lock. This will allow you to do the shadows on the same layer and save you some space. Remember that by doing this, you'll have less control and you won't be able to erase your shadows later. Stick with clipping masks if you have enough layers though. Let's now try to add some shadows using another technique. If you have these tiny elements separately, you can duplicate them at this point. If you're like me and kept them in the same layer as something else, grab the freehand selection tool, circle them, scroll 3 fingers down on the screen and tap on duplicate. Now, bring them under the original layer, paint them in black and move them slightly to the bottom left. If you tap on the transform tool, you can move objects by tapping with your fingers towards the direction you want to move them, always outside the selection though. Now, head into the adjustments panel and tap on Gaussian blur. You can now scroll left and right on your screen to see what amount of blur looks better. Now I'm just lowering the opacity a bit down. Now everything looks semi-real already. Good job. If it was real paper though, maybe some cut shapes would bend a bit since we would work it with our hands. So let's try how to add this effect. Get one of the leaves, add a clipping mask on top and add some shadows like the ones I'm doing. Let's say that if you would bend it in real life, it would generate these extra shadows, or similar ones anyway. Now head to the ampersand's clipping mask and add some shadows a bit further than the previous ones. The further you place them from the main object, the more elevated the paper will look. Okay, shadows done, and hey, we're about to finish here. Now let's add some light by adding some white borders on the paper. Select the script or brush pen inside Procreate's calligraphy panel and draw these lines on the left side of the shapes. Start thin, then thicker in the middle, and then thin again in the end. So we're done with these lights and I guess summer lights won't hurt anybody, right? Create another layer on top of the lines you've just done and select the medium brush inside the airbrushing panel. Size it quite small and spray some blurred lines like I'm doing in here. Okay, well, the illustration is done. Let's now add a couple touch-ups in the background. Go back to the gallery and duplicate the document. Since we're gonna be joining all the illustration layers, it's always better to keep a copy of the hard work we've done. So, to join layers, we'll start pinching in groups. Sometimes, merging a bunch of them at the same time can get messy, so make sure you pinch first clipping masks with the objects beneath, and then you can go faster. Do you remember the overall paper texture we had? Okay, tap on it and make it a clipping mask. Now this texture belongs just to the illustration. We'll play later with the second texture I told you to save previously. Now we'll do a drop shadow of our illustration. Duplicate it, select the bottom one and go to the adjustments panel. Once there, tap on hue, saturation and brightness and just bring the brightness completely down. Get the transform tool and select freeform. Once there, move the layer to the bottom left. Now go to adjustments, Gaussian blur and scroll left and right depending on how much blur you want. Now let's add one of those not too obvious effects. We don't want the paper illustration to be sitting completely straight, so select the transform tool again, tap on distort and move the dot from the bottom left to the right. This will bring the shadow closer on one side and further on the other. It will look like it's not sitting perfectly on the background. Now I'm setting this layer to multiply by tapping on it in the layers panel. Bring the opacity down or up as you please. To finish up, head to the second background texture we saved before and bring it to the background. If you skip that little step, feel free to add a new layer and spray a new texture. This will give us two different textures on our piece and will make it look more realistic. Yeah, I know, I've been saying it for a while, but hey, this is the last step, I promise. Add a new layer, select a brighter color, in my case a turquoise, and spray some texture on the upper right side. I'm using an inverted brush from our set, but you can use an airbrush from Procreate. Set this layer to color dodge, and you are done. And before wrapping up, I wanted to tell you that from now on, we'll be uploading videos every single month, and I also wanted to ask you what you would like to learn next. Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on future tutorials. That would mean the world. See you next time.
Remember that by joining our newsletter community, you will get access to all of our freebies, including free Procreate brushes, textures and fonts, and other fresh stuff we cook up every month.
Remember that you'll find the link in the description below.
And with that said, ladder away!